change the angle there so we don't have the door in it. So today the title is Science versus Religion. Now, before we start, I would like to say that I don't have a personal problem against any religion, okay? And the main religion, which, if you want to say I'm attacking, would be Christianity, because I know about the Bible, I don't know about the Quran, I don't know what it says, because I'm from England in Europe, and the main religion around here would definitely be Christianity and those sort of religions that rely on the Bible, so Jewishism and stuff like that as well. I do love the fact that the camera has the writing on my shirt around the wrong way, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Hello, whoever is watching. So we're going to look at science versus creationology, or whatever they want to call it. Basically, evolution. So is evolution a thing? Is it not a thing? Goodbye again. So the science tells you that evolution happened, and over 4.5 billion years, long time, the world has become from a burning rock, where lots of dust joined together, became particles, became a rock, became a sphere-like subject. Again, sphere, that's something we're going to come on to again later. We're going to attack those flat earthers, not attack them, but point out the models which are totally wrong. But so the earth becomes round, goes round the sun. That's what it does, people. It does go round the sun. And you got to look at the universe. Now, there are parts here, and I'm just going to throw it in there. I personally am not a scientist. I don't have a science background. I do not understand quite how they work all this stuff out. So I'm not going to claim to know everything, because I certainly don't. But science is amazing. Science is something which is currently helping the world get through COVID-19, which obviously is a good thing. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about COVID-19 and that sort of science a bit later, but all the sciences all sort of come together. But at the moment, we're going to stick to a bit of physics and geology. So these are two sciences which can prove that the world is as old as what people say. So if we look at that the Earth is only 1,000 years, 6,000 years old, which is complete twaddle. They believe that Noah's Ark landed on top of a mountain, and all the animals, which became 2 by 2, all went off, and they all then became all the other animals. Few problems here. One, if this did happen, how did all the animals go from where are we saying this happened? Around Africa, Middle East? How did all the animals then get to the specific places where they got to? South Africa. How are they going to get to South Africa? How are they going to get to America? I'm sorry, not South Africa, South America. How are they going to get to North America? How are they getting to Australia? Because as a species, the humans, we didn't find Australia to just over 200 years ago, but yet we know it's there. When we look at many problems, I don't have all the scientific facts, sadly, but I do have a basic understanding of what creationism is and how it is absolute nonsense. Now, again, I'm not going to say religion is bad. Religion isn't bad. Religion is good. It is there, and it helps lots of people around the world, and I see that as a good thing. But some of the claims, if you literally take the Bible and believe every last word of it, not sure too many people actually believe everything written in the Bible, because they say, oh, it's the word of God. Okay, where did it come from then? Was it not written by man? I'm sure it was. And if the first book was so good, what is currently known as the Old Testament, why do we need a New Testament? Is it because things got missed? Do you think, oh, hang on, I missed that? If he's the great creator and has all the knowledge, then why did he not manage to get it into the first book? There you go. There is one problem. One problem with creation is if he was so big and powerful and knew everything, why did he need a second edition? And when's the third edition of the Bible coming out? There you go. The biggest problem with creation over science is, or evolution, is they don't believe the scientific facts. They can't actually find a way, yeah, this isn't actually happening. This is wrong. Why is it wrong? This is the reason it's wrong. The Bible can't do that with science, but science can do that with the Bible. Now, okay, I didn't necessarily say that well, and I don't have, like I say, the science background to back up my claims, but there's plenty of people out there who can. I give you Professor Brian Cox. He is incredible. Professor Dave explains. He can explain to you better than I can exactly why this is so. You know, there's loads and loads of science on YouTube. There's also a load of absolute nonsense on YouTube. My channel being one of them. But hey, there you go. You're welcome. So, there you go. There's my little bit on science versus religion. Now, we're going to start on flat earthers. 1 second, I'm just going to go and grab my coffee. Didn't fancy dropping it on my iPad, so I thought I'd put it down, and then I forgot to pick it back up, so there you go. One of the best things though about being on the internet is you get to talk absolute nonsense if you like. What you can't do and what I won't do is spread hate, and I don't believe in that. And I have, like I say, I have no problem in you having your religion and believing in whatever you want, you know, whether you're Christian, Catholic, a Protestant, a Jewish person, a Hindu, Muslim, it doesn't matter. You know, you're all welcome to your faith. Believe in what you like. Don't try and push it on me, and we'll be absolutely fine together. So, we are going to now go into a different sort of science. Just load the iPad. Let's make sure it works first. So one thing that I have been doing recently is I've been doing what I call Ask Google. So we're going to do an Ask Google today, and today's Ask Google is going to be on the Black Death. Okay, so the Black Death was hideous, and it was one of the worst times for human beings to be alive. And so go to what we were saying about science over religion. I will come to that in a short time. So I asked Google first, what exactly was the Black Death? Bubonic plague is an infection spread mostly by humans by infected fleas that travel on rodents. Called the Black Death, it kills millions of Europeans. During the Middle Ages, prevention doesn't include a vaccination, but it does involve reducing your exposure to mice, rats, squirrels, and other animals that may be infected. So what you basically had to do, the problem was the knowledge wasn't known then, but because of science, we discovered what actually did. I say we, it wasn't me personally, but we as in the science community, which I'm not part of, but I'm going to claim to be for this particular argument. They discovered that it wasn't the rats that were causing the Black Death. The rats were a byproduct. What was happening was the fleas would bite the rats eventually would die, but they would jump off the fleas onto another creature, and human beings generally came from rodents. So when did it first affect Europe? So we're going for Europe because that's where I live. So the Black Death was a devastating global epidemic of bubonic plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid-1300s. The plague arrived in Europe on October 1347 when 12 ships from the Black Sea docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. And how did it spread? Most evidence points to the Black Death being the main bubonic strain of the plague, spread far and wide by a flea-ridden rat on boats and fleas on the bodies and clothes of travellers. Got to think that hygiene wasn't what it is today. So when you think of COVID, I'm going to go for what the UK health and government were telling us was to keep 2 meters apart from people when possible. Stay at home was the first one. We had to stay at home. What was it? Stay at home, wash your hands regularly, 20 seconds, sorry. Imagine 20 minutes of washing your hands. For 20 seconds, using hot water and plenty of soap. So, does it have to be antibacterial soap? No, it just needs to be soap. What soap does is it gets the grease off your hands when you're washing them. Make sure you're getting all the arms and under and all this, but and it will clean your hands, and then you wash your hands, and then that's all good. So basically, yeah, good hygiene. We didn't have that in the 1300s because they didn't understand hygiene. Quite how the human race actually survived to what it is today, who knows? But today, because of science and because of satellites and the fact that the satellites are strategically spaced around the planet, you can watch this nonsense if you choose to in Australia. You can watch this nonsense if you like in Saudi Arabia. You can watch this nonsense if you like in Poland, the United States, Brazil, Bosnia, anywhere else that you haven't mentioned. And if I didn't mention your country and you wished I did, I'm sorry. Let me know in the comments and I'll mention you next time. So we know how it spread, but how quickly did it kill? So most victims died 2 to 7 days after the initial infection. The infection takes 3 to 5 days to incubate in people before they fall ill. And another 3 or 5 days, in 80% of the cases, the victim dies. Plus, from an introduction of plague contagion among the rats in the human community, it takes on average 23 days before the first person dies. So, yeah, if you're living there, you're then kind of thinking, oh shit, here we go. How many did it kill? It's not known for certain how many people died during the Black Death. About 25 million people are estimated to have died in Europe from the plague between 1347 and 1351. And how many forms of plague are there? The plague is divided into 3 main types: the bubonic, the septicemic, and the pneumonic. Yeah, there you go. That's why I'm not part of the science community. I can't say the words, depending on which part of the body is involved. These and plagues with them because most people who got the plague died, and many of them have blackened tissue due to gangrene. So the gangrene going black that makes it the Black Death. You know, I would have thought being called gangrene it would have made it go green, but there you go. That's because I'm a simpleton and I don't actually know. Just get a reminder there to book me COVID booster. Already done that. Bubonic plague was called the Black Death. A cure for the bubonic plague wasn't available. And where did it come from? We've already done that bit. So here's a lovely thought for you with the Black Death. So is it true? Is it not? No one really knows, because the problem with history, and again I'm going to get onto history now. History is biased, okay? And what do I mean by biased? Okay, so different parts of the world will teach the same history, but in the way they want to see it. So we take the Second World War, for example. How is it taught in Germany? It's going to be taught in Germany different to how it's taught in the UK. And I don't actually have any educational facts for this, but I can't believe that the Second World War was taught in Germany, and it basically says that all of your grandparents and their parents were absolute assholes who went around killing people. Not sure, but I doubt if it is. So there you go. But is it true that the Black Death was used as a weapon? On the basis of a 17th century account by the Genoese Gabriel de Mussy, the Black Death is widely believed to have reached Europe from the Crimea as a result of a biological warfare attack. So going back to biological warfare, not that we started with that, but you know, you think of biological warfare, you think of mustard gas and other gases being used in the trenches as being the first biological warfare. But what they did is not only a great historical interest, but also relevant to current efforts to evaluate the threat of military and terrorist use of biological weapons. I conclude that the claim that biological warfare was used at Kaffa is plausible and provides the best explanation of the entry to the plague into the city. The theory is consistent with the technology of the times and with contemporary notions of disease caution. However, the entry of the plague into Europe from the Crimea likely occurred independent of this event. So it is believed this narrative contains some startling assertions that the Mongol army hurled plague-infected cavaliers into the besieged Crimean city of Kaffa, thereby transmitting the disease to the inhabitants, and that fleeing survivors of the siege spread plague from Kaffa to the Mediterranean basin. If this account is correct, Kaffa should be recognised as the site of the most spectacular incident of biological warfare ever, with the Black Death as its disastrous consequence. After analysing these claims, I have concluded that it is plausible that the biological attack took place as described and was responsible for infecting the inhabitants of Kaffa. However, the event is unimportant in the spread of the plague pandemic. Yeah, I don't actually know who wrote that. It wasn't me. Like I say, ask Google, and we asked Google. So I think I've already done this. How many percent of the infected did it kill? The Black Death was the second great natural disaster to strike Europe during the late Middle Ages, in the first one being the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317. It is estimated to have killed 30% to 60% of the European population. So the disease bubonic plague, its deaths estimated, no one really counted, between 75 million and 200 million. Location Eurasia and North Africa. So basically then, what we're saying is, obviously the world now has what, 7 billion and rising people on it, and it's only, if we take the highest amount there, 200 million people, it wouldn't look too bad nowadays, although it's still a horrific amount of people. You know, numbers really, you can't get it by numbers. You sort of almost have to have seen it. And obviously we can't go back and see the horrific events of the Black Death, thank the Lord. Again, going back to science, technology, if there is such a thing. So again, so going now onto hygiene, one of the most religious groups which are most persecuted throughout the existence of the human race since religion really came on are the Jewish faith. Now, many types of Jewish faith, and I personally don't have any problem with any faith at all, and you know, you have the right to believe in whatever you want to believe. But one of the reasons that they were persecuted so much during the Black Death is because they believed they should try and keep their hands clean, so they would wash. Therefore, the Jewish faith, which did lose a lot of people to the Black Death still, because they had slightly better hygiene, not amazing hygiene, but slightly better hygiene than the rest of the people, their survival rate was a little bit better because they were cleaner. They managed to not die so much. So they were, of course, like they always would be, were in some ways blamed for the bubonic plague. But there you go. That's a bit of history. I know that's not coming from Ask Google. We'll get onto that bit in a minute. So, how did bad population, whoever it took hold? The low standards of medieval hygiene certainly helped it along, though there were other factors such as complete lack of understanding of what was causing it and the absence of effective quarantine. So, one of the things we've done with COVID is, whether it's in whatever country it's been in, you look at China, in Wuhan where it started, they had a massive lockdown and people weren't even allowed to go out. They were so strictly done. Now, obviously, in Europe, the government would not be allowed to stop everyone from going out, but they did make us stay at home, clean our hands regularly, and you know the actual rate of people out and about was so reduced. And I work in a pub, I'm a chef, and I was unable to go to work. So there you go. So by having a good way of trying to control the virus, even though it didn't totally stop it, it reduced the amount of people going to hospital with the illness. So here's a question for you, which, going by what I've already said, we know isn't true, but is the plague and COVID-19 spread the same way? No, the plague is a bacterial zoological infection in domestic and wild animals. Infectious disease specialist Bruce Polsky, MD, chairman of medicine at the NYU Wistar Hospital, tells Health humans are a incidental host with the bacterial transmitted by fly bites. Most typically rodents, fleas, such as those on field mice, chipmunks, squirrels, and rabbits. He says plague has been reported among rabbit hunters, for example, but it can be transmitted through cats, scratches, or bites. Charlie Bailey, MD, medical director for infectious prevention at Missionary Hospital and St. Joseph Hospital in Southern California, tells Health that plague is transmitted from animal reservoirs among small rodents, epidemic in the western US, but can also be seen in other areas of the world, especially Africa, he says. Flea bite is the most common form of transmission of the bubonic plague, says the CDC. Other forms of the plague, people can also become infected via direct contact with an infected animal, but human to human transmission is rare. On the other hand, COVID-19 is caused by a virus that is transmitted from person to person, usually via close contact within 6 feet. It might also be contacted through direct physical contact, such as shaking the hand of someone who has the coronavirus or touching and contaminating surfaces. Simply being near the infected person who coughs, sneezes, or talks can expose you to the respiratory droplets contained in viral particles. The CDC says if those particles get in your eyes, nose, or mouth, you could become infected. That is why we wear masks when we're in close contact places. This is why it was baffling. And I'm going to pick on two people here, Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. These were, I know Donald is now left, what a shame. These were the two of the biggest politicians in the world. Donald Trump at the time was the President of the United States, in case you didn't know, and Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. They would still shake people's hands. We would see them shaking people's hands, even though they were telling us not to. Donald Trump even said, oh, well, what if we inject bleach into ourselves? Yes, it would kill, it would get rid of coronavirus, but sadly it would also kill you because you're being a bloody idiot. Like, it's a health emergency. You do not need dick shit saying crap like that, you absolute moron. So, is the Black Death still around? Yes, we've already said that is. An outbreak of the bubonic plague in China has led to worry that the Black Death could make a significant return, but experts say the disease isn't nearly as deadly as it was thanks to antibiotics. How many survived the plague? In the first outbreak, 2/3 of the population contracted the illness and most patients died. In the next half, the population became ill, but only some died. In the third and a tenth were affected and many survived, while the fourth occurrence, only 1 in 12 people were sickened and most of them survived. One of the things that did happen was after the initial plagues, children were the big victim once it came back. So the tragedy was because they hadn't had any sort of contact with it or any sort of what's it called? Not immunization, but yeah, close contact to it. They were the victims. Um, so how would we protect ourselves if the Black Death was to return today? So prevention. There is no vaccine for the plague in the US. Okay, so this is obviously from a paper from the US, but I imagine it's the same in the UK. So if you have a chance of contact with plague germs, take steps to protect yourself. If you travel to Africa, Asia, or South America, check for travelers' notices about plague outbreaks on the CDC website. Contact areas with the plague if you can, and stay away from sick or dead animals while you're there. If you live in an area where there has been a case of the plague, fill holes and gaps in your home to stop mice, rats and squirrels from getting in. Clean up your yard, get rid of piles of leaves, wood and rocks where animals might make their homes. Use bug repellent with DEET to protect flea bites or when you hike or camp. Wear gloves if you have to touch wild animals, alive or dead. Use flea control sprays or other treatments on your pet. Don't let your pets, like cats or dogs, sleep in your bed. What is the biggest killer of humans today? So we've done Black Death, we've done COVID. We know COVID kills people, but what is the biggest killer today? Heart disease and strokes are two of the biggest killers, according to the World Health Organization's 2019 report on the most common causes of death worldwide. There have been encouraging improvements with deaths from HIV and AIDS and tuberculosis in decline. Alzheimer's is still a growing problem and affects more women than men. Meanwhile, COVID-19 may be disturbing immunization against disease like measles, cholera, and polio. COVID-19 may be disrupting immunization against diseases like measles, cholera, and polio. While the world is still reeling from the coronavirus pandemic, many other common causes of early death are in retreat, including HIV, AIDS, and tuberculosis. Anyway, there you go. So that was Ask Google on the Black Death. So hopefully. So we're going to get now on to flat earthers and why the flat earth is an absolute bunch of nonsense. So the main reason flat earthers, let's be fair, people knew that the world was round probably 6,000 years ago roughly, because two things that give it away is the claim that the earth is the center of the universe and the sun goes round the earth. There are a few problems with this, my friend, and we are going to get onto that right now. So we're going to start with the moon. Okay, so every 28 days the moon goes round the moon is going around the earth, and we can see a certain percentage of it because of the sun. Okay, one thing that we can predict because of mathematics, and very clever people who aren't me can predict a solar eclipse, where it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, within minutes. So you can tell me that on a certain date in the future, that in Perth, we're going to take Perth in Australia as an example, there will be a solar eclipse in Perth, Australia, which will be seen throughout Australia because it's a bloody big place. But you will get a partial eclipse in Sydney, but you will get a full eclipse in Perth. and they will tell you down to the minute what time this is going to happen in 60 years time. Okay, so you can't do that with flat earth because there's not the mathematics that allow that to happen. It's because lots of very clever people who know that the world is round are able to do the sums. Also, so that is one part debunked. Another part is just the stars. So if you are living on a flat earth and we're all looking up, we should all see the same heavens, the same stars, and everything should all be the same. So we can all see at the same time, and we should always be able to see Orion's belt, Sagittarius, and all the stars that we all know and heard of. Many of which I've never seen. Okay, I know what Orion looks like, and it comes around at a certain time each year because we're going round the sun. And when we're at this part of the sun and Orion's over here, the sun's in the way, I'm not going to see Orion. I like the belt of Orion. It's my favourite star system. Don't know why. Doesn't really matter. Who cares? But I always get it because I like the little belt, and it always reminds me of the pyramid, and I like Egyptian. The pyramids, so one of the reasons why potentially the smaller pyramid is smaller is if you look at the belt of Orion, you've got the bigger light star in the middle, slightly larger one on this side of it, and a smaller one slightly off center on this side, and it goes with that. And then mathematically, don't know how they did it, but if you were to do that and put that to the River Nile, that's your Milky Way. So, don't know where I heard that, but I did hear that. That could be wrong. That doesn't actually work. That isn't true. That's all right. I don't care. I'm not gonna lose any sleep about that one being wrong. Could be worse. I could believe in being in flat Earth. So there are certain models which are out there which 100% demonstrate why the Earth is round and why the Earth isn't flat. So the stars being a great example. So you look up in the southern hemisphere, you can see different. So let's take Australia and the UK. I can see totally different stars to what all good my pal in Australia in Sydney can see. I say my pal, we've never met, we've never spoke, but we used to play a computer game together. But there you go, doesn't matter. He will see a different star system to what I see, and that's just because that's there. Also, the seasons. Okay, so as we spin around the world, as we spin around the sun, not around the world, we're on the world. As we spin around the sun, we have seasons. So we have summer, spring, winter, and autumn. Most people go the other way, but we like to be different. Okay, so we have spring, summer, autumn, or the fall if you're in America. Don't know why they call it the fall, but there you go. And winter. So 4 seasons in the northern hemisphere. Currently we are going into fall. I know why they call it the fall, because all the bloody leaves on the garden out there. So when the leaves fall off the trees, and Africa, most of Africa, it's coming into spring, so it's going to start getting pretty hot soon. Going with heat, little fact here for you: the hottest place on earth is Death Valley in California, but the place which has the constant hottest temperature in the world is in Ethiopia, where it is an average temperature throughout the year of 31 degrees. Now that's a bit too hot for my liking. I think I'll stick to UK, where at least you can sleep at night. You might need a blanket, but at least you can sleep. Not a coffee. It's going to be time to stop soon because my coffee's running out and I need a wee. But there you go. So let's carry on with debunking the flat earth morons. Or not be horrible to them, even if they deserve it. So the seasons tell you that the world is going around the sun. The mathematics are mind-boggling. One of the things that I believe that these physics, like I say, Professor Brian Cox and Professor Dave, I do believe in your mathematics, although I don't understand them. But that's because I don't have a degree in maths. I don't have your science backgrounds. Incredibly intelligent people, and I do find it fascinating how, but I can't work out how, even with your mind-numbingly intellectually brilliant mathematics, I still can't work out quite how you can tell me how big the sun is just through mathematics. And you know, we're always told don't look at the sun through a telescope, or don't even look with your eyes. How you can work out how far away the sun is, how the heat of the sun, how fusion began and all this. But basically this is another one which will destroy your creationist little asses. So the universe started about 13.6 billion, 13.7 billion years ago, give or take a couple of billion years. So it happened that there was a Big Bang. No one really knows what happened with the Big Bang, but our current part of the Milky Way didn't actually come into place till about 4.6 billion years ago. Okay, so the universe was started long before our solar system. That's, you know, we're looking at what, almost the universe, but not our galaxy, our part of the solar system. So what happened was there was a Big Bang, and then massive great blue suns appeared, which are obviously stars, and they were basically helium and hydrogen, and that was pretty much the two things that happened in the universe. There was a lot of dust, and they gradually became together, they fused, and then through some sort of nuclear fusion they became big blue stars. And the reason they're blue is because they were literally helium and hydrogen in our sun today, which is a long way away. I don't have the figures on me, so I'm not going to try and guess, but I think it's about 90 billion or million miles away. Yeah, definitely miles away. Basically, the distance from the Earth to the Sun is one Earth. No, was it one? Oh, it doesn't matter. I've got it on here somewhere, but I'm not going to try and find it. Anyway, nuclear fusion happened, and we had these massive, great blue suns or stars. They weren't very stable, and they collapsed in on themselves and became supernova, which is when a star explodes. What happened then is the particles became atoms, and the atoms then created other things that went into space, which over billions of years created things like iron and all the elements that need to create planets. Then the planets arrived. So the universe started off with just stars. Then it created space and debris. And then you look at our particular solar system now. So 4.6 billion years ago, give or take a couple of million years, the sun came into life through nuclear fusion, and it used 99.8% of all of the debris in its area, which is now our solar system. And then with the other 0.02% of debris, that created the planets. And then 2.5 times more than all of the other planets went into Jupiter. So Jupiter is out beyond what is known as the what is it, meteor belt. Then we have our rocky planets. So Mercury is very close to the sun. It's got a very, very slow turn. Then you've got Venus. Then you've got Earth, which is in that Goldilocks zone. You've then got a very small planet called Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn, then Neptune, then Uranus, or they might be around the other way. And then you got Pluto, which is a dwarf planet because it doesn't actually follow what is needed from planets to actually work. So, anyway, there you go. That is how the Earth became round. Every other planet is round, yet there are still people who I think, to be fair, don't even believe it. I reckon it's a conspiracy and they're thinking, right, how can we make ourselves famous? How not round, it is flat. So there are so many ways to prove the world is round. Now, when I look to my house, which I can see out the window here, okay, it looks flat to me, but that is because, although actually there's a little slope, but that is because of distance, okay? The distance between me and my house is less than 12 feet. Oh, sorry, less than 20 feet. So it's going to look quite flat. You go onto these big plains and you can see for miles and miles and miles. It looks flat. Totally get that. 100% get that. But even a fisherman would say, okay, if they're coming in off that boat, the first thing they're going to see before they see the land, if it's a mountainous area, not everywhere is, but it's going to be the hills, the mountains they see before they start to see the land. And that's because of the curvature of the earth. The other thing is, how does the sea sit there? And then there was another one, he was some pasture in Alabama. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a bit of a bellend. Anyway, he was claiming that tides even happened during the great flood that Noah saved all the animals from. So how does that work? Because there are sea currents and there are certain currents which go across the world. We've all heard of these Gulf streams and things like that. We've heard of them. They affect the weather. Okay, we know this. This is because the world is round, by the way, not because it's flat. But he wasn't claiming that the world was flat. He was claiming about creation. But he claimed that there was tides even though there was no land because the land was covered in flood. Also, another little question for you, young man, you creationists who believe in Noah's Ark. Why did the water go? Where did it go? And also, so it went far enough to create the continents, but why did it stop going? Why didn't it just all go? Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that one. When you can get back to me and tell me, see what you got. Anyway, this has been your man in the shed. Back today in the shed. Hope everyone is well. Live long and prosper, my friends. Hope I haven't offended anyone over their religious beliefs. That was not the intention of my science versus religion. It was simply to show how science has the facts, but religion doesn't necessarily. I don't say you can't believe in your gods. If you want to believe in your gods, believe in your gods. Enjoy your religion. Hope it brings you happiness. I really do. And that's not me being patronizing, that's me being genuine. Okay, anyway, this has been your man in the shed. See you, pals.